in athletics, there's always more. There's always that empowerment to push to a new level, to push the limits. I want students to realize that their potential is almost limitless and endless. And, like athletics, I want them to be breaking records on a daily basis.
I'm Mackenzie Price, and welcome to Gifted Minds Beyond the Classroom. I get so inspired watching the Olympic Games and thinking about how hard those athletes work to make their dreams come true. And I believe students can learn a lot from these athletes. My guest today is ice dancer Andrew Poje. He is a 2-time Olympian and a 3-time world medalist. And now he coaches kids in, can you believe it? Academics. Check out our conversation to hear how he believes kids can take the lessons he's learned on the rink into the classroom. And at the end of the episode, I'll give you 3 takeaways that'll help you crush this parenting thing. So check it out as we go beyond the classroom. Andrew, I am totally excited to have you here on Gifted Minds. Thanks for coming and joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have our little chat.
I'm sure parents are wondering, wait, what is an Olympic ice skater doing coaching and academics? So can you tell me a little bit about your career?
Yeah, it's a valid question for sure. And, I think it comes down to, as an athlete, I relied on the feedback of my coach, my mentors along the way to achieve the success that I had. The journey taught me about the true power of having that athletic mindset and what it can teach you. But the beauty is you don't need athletics in order to apply those same principles. So, I coach students to establish those same habits and traits that empower them to be Olympic at life.
I love this idea of bringing an athletic mindset to learning. Can you tell me a little bit about your background in athletics?
I started very early in my years with a dream, a dream of being an Olympian. I was watching Olympics on TV and saw the celebration moments that were happening in front of me. And I knew in that instant, I didn't want to just be cheering them on, but I wanted to be on the field actually participating. Now, I didn't know what sport and what conduit it would be in. So I tried a ton of different sports. I was playing soccer, basketball, baseball, you name it, I've tried it. But luckily, I grew up in Canada, and it's kind of a rite of passage to learn to skate. And so I got on the ice, and immediately there was something that was different about the sport. There was that balance of artistry and athleticism. You needed to be in elite physical form, but you also had to create an emotional story, emotional experience for the judges, for the audience, for yourself. And that hooked me right in. And I knew it was my sport, and it was the way that I was going to be able to achieve my goal, which was going to the Olympics.
I will never forget probably being about 8 or 10 years old and watching Mary Lou Retton score a perfect 10 on the vault. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, I want to be her. I want to be on the Wheaties box. But I know there's a huge difference between wanting to be an Olympian and actually becoming an Olympian. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey to the Olympics?
Yeah. I mean, I will say that for me, the journey to Olympics was a lot of ups and downs. And one of the main reasons I was able to achieve the dream was because I didn't give up in the downs, which is sometimes hard for people. And now can say that I'm a 2-time Olympian, former world number 1, and one of the only dance teams to ever be top 10 in the world for nearly a decade. And I'm proud of that fact, but that wasn't always the case. I tried to qualify for the games early on and was in a good place, and I felt trained and ready. But at the national championships, which was the qualifier, I missed that spot by 0.03 of a point, which is absolutely nothing. It's like a freckle. And I was extremely disappointed. I thought about giving up, but I wasn't mad in a way that I expected. And the curiosity in me kind of got the best. And so I had to find those daily wins. I had to win on a daily approach in order to be able to grow to the level that I needed and my country needed for me to qualify for that. And I felt that power of the approach. And so it was definitely a game changer for me.
So you did eventually make it to the Olympics after that missing by a freckle.
Yeah, I did. I did. And it was an amazing experience, walking into the stadium for the opening ceremonies. It was like a celebration moment. It was a culmination of all the hard work and the dedication that I had to put in, the hours and hours and hours of training. And I was able to realize that dream. I felt instantly like I was shot back to my childhood when I was on the screen. And I was like, some kid back home is watching me right now. And that is so cool to think about. And it inspired me to go hard and just trust in the training. And I was able to go out there and perform to the best of my ability on those days. And I'm so grateful for that.
So now you work with students to help them develop this athletic mindset, this idea of learning like an athlete. What do you think are the skills that a student needs in order to have that mindset?
I coach the kids because I want to empower them to feel that same way that I felt walking into those open ceremonies. The students often, I feel, don't get encouraged to go to that big moment, to find those like Olympic moments in life. And in athletics, there's always more. There's always that empowerment to push to a new level, to push the limits. There's people always breaking new records and realizing new levels within themselves. And I want students to realize that their potential is almost limitless and endless. And, like athletics, I want them to be breaking records on a daily basis.
I was just having a conversation with my daughter the other day who was saying so many of her friends look at school as just this thing that you kind of like experience and get to kind of suffer through. And these are friends of hers that are good students. They're getting straight A's, they're doing well, but it's like they don't feel called to anything beyond just like, okay, you do this as a baseline, you get through school and then eventually it'll be over. So I love what you're saying about this idea of creating more of a limitless environment, like to know you can go so much farther beyond in exploring your passions. That's a great thing that I wish more kids understood. So if a kid wants to develop this athletic mindset, what do you think are the skills that they need to have in order to do that?
For me, it comes down to kind of 4 key attributes. And first and foremost, that's taking ownership of their lives. It's no one else is going to get those big dreams accomplished besides themselves. Parents often have dreams of what they want their kids to accomplish, but I know this from my career and also from my career as a coach is the goals that are set upon you often do fail because there's no true attachment to that. I talk to students and I want them to understand what is it for them? What is their why? What are they trying to accomplish in their lives? And obviously, they don't need to figure out now, but the sooner they start to have those conversations and bring that up, the more they'll be able to go in the direction that excites them, understanding that there's an attachment to their passions, their purpose, and they won't give up on those days that feel hard.
I do a lot of work at Alpha, which is a K through 12 high school located in Austin. And for our high school students, we have them work on sort of a 4-year passion project that's called their masterpiece. And there was this student named Maddie who came in one day, and she's a freshman, and she's like, okay, here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to do some work in artificial intelligence and try and create this, AI tool that does this. And I know her parents. And so I looked at her and I was like, Maddie, this is not you talking. This is your dad talking. It's like you went through, and she kind of looks at me like, really? You can tell that? And I'm like, why don't you go home and think about what your passion is? What are you interested in? She comes back a few days later and she's like, I want to build the first Broadway play that TikTok creates. So I want to use TikTok as this channel or contribution center to create this Broadway play. And I was like, there's Maddie. I see that in there. So I think ownership is such a crucial thing that we have to help kids kind of embrace. Because you're right, when it gets hard, it goes out the window if it's not really your own dream. It's got to be something you're totally invested in. So that totally makes sense. What else is important?
Well, it's about dreaming big. It's about setting ambitious goals. It's about setting goals that are scary, you know? It's the scary of like it's in the realm of possibility, but there is still a chance that you might fail. But the things that you realize along the way are so empowering. You know, often in school, it's it's celebrated almost for the kids to aim for an A and they'll get the gold star, and that's enough. And that's great. That will get them to a good school. But I want kids to realize that life happens beyond school, beyond those moments. And, you know, fostering that early on as a student, I think creates a clear vision of what they want in a very focused direction, because athletes don't just shoot to, you know, make one layup. They want to make sure that they're becoming the greatest of all time. They're always pushing themselves. And by having that clear vision, it kind of simplifies your life.
Totally. You have this idea of taking ownership of your life and then connecting with some sort of a goal that's your why. Like, why do you care about this? Where have you seen that with students that you've worked with?
I have this girl, Mindy, that I worked with this past summer, and she, you know, she was in the math program, but didn't really have any goals and didn't really love math. It was very evident quickly that she was teetering off. And so we dove in and explored her passions, what she was excited about, what she wanted to accomplish. And through that kind of exploration, we realized that she loved the medical field. She loved medicine. And, you know, we searched up med school requirements, and turns out you need a strong foundation in math to get into med school. And boom, just like that, she was connected and all of a sudden just like excited and amped to do her math on a daily basis.
I was one of those students who would raise my hand in class and be like, I'm sorry, but when do I actually need to use this? Why do I care about this? And I'd have some teachers who would be very kind of bummed out that I was challenging them on like, I need to understand if I'm learning chemistry, like how's that going to affect me? And so I think it's so cool that you take like, why is math important? Oh, because I want to get into med school. Like, I guess that kind of matters. Suddenly, as you said, it's like a light bulb moment where they go, okay, I'm connected. So obviously having big goals is great, but you can't just like me watching Mary Lou Retton. You got to actually get out and do something. So what else do you think is important in order to make these dreams happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a big gap between where you are now and the goals that you want to accomplish. And the only way you can build that bridge is through daily performance habits, you know, and ambitious goals take hard work. They take consistent work. They take deliberate work. Ambitious goals have ambitious hours. And you can only accomplish that through consistency. I think about if you were training for a marathon, you know, if you're working with a run coach training for a marathon, and you talk to him and he's like, oh, well, we have a marathon in 2 months. So I'll see you 2 days before the event. We'll run for 6 to 12 hours straight. And then you'll be ready. It's ridiculous. That wouldn't happen. You know, cramming doesn't work within sport. So why do we think it's going to work within life as well? You know, so it's important to slowly build your strength and your power in your mindset on a daily basis. But ramping it up to almost that new level, that Olympic level, is making sure that those hours do count as well. You know, you can show up to the gym and do a little bit of this and work out a little bit over there. And yes, you're at the gym, you've showed up, but have you made those hours count?
I feel like maybe you had a hidden camera on me at the gym a few weeks ago. I had this television show that I made a rule that I couldn't just sit down and watch. I could only watch it if I was exercising. But I found myself going to the gym and putting the iPad up, and instead of actually like getting on the treadmill or doing weights, I was just kind of standing there like watching this show. And it's such a good point that if we're not deliberate about making the minutes count in whatever it is we're doing, it's so easy to be unfocused, and that's just a waste of time. And that's totally true with any kind of like work that we do, whatever we're focusing on doing. You mentioned there was a fourth skill that you think is really important for developing this athletic mindset. Tell me what it is.
For me, that fourth and final kind of piece that unlocks the new level is really about the mindset. It's about having that winning mastery mindset. When I was on the ice through my career, I feel like I developed that through two key things, and that was pressure and feedback. Pressure is often seen as a bad thing, as toxic. Throughout my career, I understood the power and the empowerment of pressure. We want them to, see the healthy ways that you can deal with pressure, that you can use pressure in a good way, so that you can rise to the pressure of tests, of competitions. And you only get that really through feedback. Now, you can have self-feedback and self-regulation, which is super, super important, but it's also really important to get external feedback from your coaches and your mentors and parents and everyone, because you look at any success story that's out there, and there's always a support structure of people in their corner. They'll go to their coach and hug their coach almost first and foremost. Now, why is that? Because the coach is the one that's giving them the feedback for success and supporting their journey and raising that confidence level to achievement. And parents obviously can give that same sort of feedback, but there's a barrier sometimes with, especially with youth, to listen to their parents in that same way. And I think it's important to have people that are outside of that sphere, to help provide that accountability, that motivation, and the solid foundations to really empower their journey and let them grow into being Olympic at life.
My 17-year-old, much to, I'm sure you're surprised, doesn't always care when I choose to give her advice or ask her questions. She's like, don't worry about it. And we were having a conversation a few weeks ago about college stuff, and she kind of just was like, don't worry about it. She kind of sloughed me off. But she has a connection with a college student that kind of acts as a mentor for her. And she comes home a few days later and she's like, I was talking to so-and-so, and we started talking about the application process, and we looked up a few things, and it kind of helped unveil, like, it's not quite as complicated as I thought it was. And I really thought, like, thank you for bringing this other person into my daughter's life that can be like a rallying support, empathetic, and as you said, like a champion, to help these kids. That's such a great thing that I think a lot of parents can realize we can help set up some support systems outside of ourselves, because we can't always do it by ourselves. So I love that idea of coaching and having that person there to help you. I also think it's totally important to take that idea of pressure and change it on its head, because it's such a stressful thing for so many people in our society today. And if we can learn to relate to that in a healthier way, that's good for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it's healthy to understand how to deal with, the prolonged pressure moments of building of those big things, and the peak pressure moments of having tests. You look at anyone that's achieved extreme athletic success, even in the business world as well, there's always great coaches and mentors behind those people. And so we just want to start that conversation and that growth earlier on.
I so appreciate your time talking with us about this idea of learning like an Olympian and how we can help our kids develop an athletic mindset. Thanks for being here.
No, thank you very much for having me.
Ready for today's takeaways? Here are the 3 things from my conversation with Coach Andrew that can help your kid learn like an Olympian. Number 1, talk to your child about the connection between learning and athletics. Walk through the example of how an athlete prepares for a big competition and how that might relate to goals and aspirations that your kid has. Number 2, help your child exercise the skills that make an Olympian successful, taking ownership, ambitious goal setting, forming good daily habits, and developing a winning mastery mindset can help your kids get to the next level in any area of interest. And number 3, enlist a coach for your child. Find a trusted adult or older kid who shares an interest with your child and can mentor them to achieve their goals. It's always great to have a support beyond a parent. And for all of your friends who can relate, tell them about Gifted Minds. Check us out on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Let's go crush this week. If you're finding this conversation about parenting helpful, hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks.